Oh my gosh, I'm recording. Now it's official. You know, this little thing's not plugged in. Is it supposed to be?
If she's supposed to be plugged in, she said.
Okay.
That is unimportant.
Okay. Alrighty, so I'm going to get started here. I was just having a conversation earlier with somebody, and I said, I cannot believe how much this group has grown in its talent. And I said, it's made me feel like I'm going to have to just up my game. So I better do good. Especially now that my dad is here watching. I don't think he's ever been to a demo before, and he's brought a friend with him, and so I really have to perform tonight. So anyway, I best get started. Also, as I was thinking about how I was going to teach my class next Saturday, I had the last few years I've dissected the face, and we've done them in stages, and I think that this group has moved past that. So, and I feel like maybe you guys have done it a couple of times. You don't need to do it again. Now we just need to get into it. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm only working on 1/8 of a sheet. I have lots of examples of my work up here. You guys want to come and have a look at it. But I've really downsized my what I paint because there's only so many of these you can have in your house. Okay? And it seems like nobody really wants a portrait of somebody else. If it's a character study, they will do it, but I seem to do portraits, so that is what it is. And you know what? These things take a lot of practice. You guys can't come to one of my classes and then just decide you're never going to do it again until the next class, because you don't ever get any better. You have to practice these things. I have to. When Karen said she wanted me to do portraits, I thought, ooh, I better get busy and practice, because I haven't done portraits for a while. I've done quite a few animals. I do quite a few of beach scenes and things like that, but I haven't really sat down and done portraits for a while. So I've been practicing. I had a few success and a few failures. And I like to tell everybody, I can fail just like anybody else here. This may turn out great, and it may turn out really bad. And that's just the way it is. Every time I pick up the brush, lay my paint down on a piece of paper, it's always a brand new experience. I seem to start from the beginning each time. So, this is my painting that I'm going to do, and I've already named him. I don't normally put it at the top, but it just seemed fitting to have it up here on the right-hand side, and I'm calling him Mugshot because he doesn't have a very friendly look. So I thought that would be fun. So I'm going to get some of my colors going here. And
Kim, can I just ask, what is the media that you use for the drawing?
this is all graphite. It's all drawn in here. And yes, I will trace it. And also, you could trace to your heart's desire, but if you don't know how to draw something, it doesn't do you a darn bit of good to trace it. You have to know what's happening inside those shapes in order to make those shapes. I do a lot of teaching, so it's easy for me to trace it, and then I take my tracing paper away, and then I go back in there and I do my own drawing on top of it. So, but this makes it so I get it right on my piece of paper, exactly where I want it. And as you notice, I have it off center to the left. And I did that on purpose. And after I saw it, I thought maybe I've made a mistake. And I don't know if I did or not. I'll really know when I get more into it. But I felt like he's so light over here, and there is more value here, that it might feel like it's helping to weigh it more evenly with the light here and some of my value over on the other side. So that's part of the reason why I did it. But I can make a mistake too, you guys, believe me. I can look at this and say that was not the thing to do. After I've painted it, of course. It just happens. As I was practicing, I had a couple of them that I painted, and I thought afterwards, why did I think that was going to make a good portrait? Because it didn't at all. It had the great lighting and all that kind of good stuff. It just didn't flow well. So I'm going to use a little bit of my serpentine green. I'll use a little of my Windsor red. I'll probably still go back and pick up some of my CAD red, but we'll see. I'm going to pick up some of my CAD orange. This guy's face, his hair, facial hair, he's got red hair. And I know that from the photograph, so it's kind of stuck with me. So I will try to do that, I'm sure. So I'm also going to pick up some cerulean. And I know lots of you guys have taken classes with me before, but I'm just going to mention here about my palette real quick, because I went to a very small palette like this because I have a tendency to use a lot of water. And I thought if I went to a smaller palette, it would help me cut back on my water use. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. But always have your palette set up exactly the same. It doesn't make any difference if you are going to put fresh paint in here every single time. You're going to clean it out every time. You make sure your colors are in exactly the same spot so you know where to go to pick up that color every time. Otherwise, it gets to be a bit of a fiasco. Yes?
I haven't seen that palette before. Who makes it?
It's Shy's Art, SHYSART.com. I think she sells it on Etsy, and I think sometimes Cheap Joe's carries it. It's about, I think it's somewhere between $60 and $75.
Is it metal or?
It's a plastic one. And the wells are very deep,
Nice.
very deep. But I have several of them. And again, I think, I'll fill it up with other colors. But I always seem to come back to my regular colors. So, I do have a couple of colors that I insist on a particular brand. My burnt sienna and my cad orange have got to be the Winsor Newton. And I've won several of sets of the M. Graham, so I've gotten very used to the M. Graham, and the M. Graham seems to be very saturated with pigment. I thought that I could go back to, say, the cerulean with the Winsor Newton, and I tried it, and I thought, well, this is such a wimpy color. I had to go back to the M. Graham. But if you're going to do the M. Graham, you also have to be careful and start out slow, because the pigment can be very intense. And then all of a sudden you've got all this color here and you're thinking, ugh! So, and I really do try to limit my palette when I'm doing anything truly, but with this, these are all flesh colors. We always have green in our faces, in our hands, wrists. We always have blue in certain places. So if we can limit it, we're better. Otherwise, we have a tendency to make mud. And I think this is a good place for me to start. And I'm going to pick up my serpentine green, has flecks of red rust color in it. So I think it's beautiful on faces. So I use it that way. I also use it on animals. I do all of that. So I am going to just start by laying down some color here. As you notice, I've left a little drop here of moisture, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to let all of my mixing happen right here on my piece of paper. And of course, I've already lost my nice little light mark there, but that's okay. I can bring it back. He has a nice white on the bill of his cap here. I don't want my color to disappear, so. going to bring this up and out. So I start working on my background, foreground, subject, all at the same time. I don't like to wait until the end to put a background in, because at that point it looks beautiful without a background. So that seems to be one of the toughest questions for everybody when we're teaching a class is, what now do I do with this background? I've got this beautiful painting, now what? And I'm like, I don't know, because it looks great the way it is. But if you're going to enter into shows and things like that, some of the judges feel like if you do not have a background, then you don't know how to paint. And I don't believe that. Dean Mitchell is, world famous artist, and lots of his paintings do not have a background on them. So I'm not sure how that rumor got started. I'm really trying to keep my lights and I'm going to just soften this edge so that I can come back to this a little later. I have some concentrated efforts over here that I really need to keep nice little highlights where his beard is all part of his face. Making some negative shapes right through here. I always like to get a lot of green in the hair as well. It doesn't seem to make any difference if it's blonde hair, black hair, whatever. I just like green in the hair, and it always seems to liven it up a little bit. So we have nice soft shadows with nice hard ones, so we need to put those in. And use your finger. If you feel like you're getting lost where you should be and where you are, use your finger.
Kim, do
Yep.
you take your photo to the photo
No,
shop?
absolutely
Get that
not.
kind of a print, or
Nope.
How do you get that print?
In any of my instructions that I send out, I always tell people to, if you have a Mac, download the app Split Print.
Yeah.
If you have a PC, it's Split at Print or Split with the and sign. Is that right, Sally? Yep. Yeah, print, the and sign print. And I believe that one's, neither one of them are very much. And the one for a PC may be free. I don't know for sure.
So you just print it on your printer?
I printed, when you use that particular app, you put it in there, you have to change it to inches.
Right.
And it will make it, it will do it all for you. And it prints it out in the size you want it, and it just works. It's a great app. If you wanted to make it almost as big as this wall, you could do that with that app. It would print it out in that many different sections, yes. This got a little dirty right through here. We're going to see what happens. But of course, I shouldn't be going back into this because I could get lots of blossoms. And you know what? I don't really care. It's okay. It's okay. I am going to take a little bit of my Windsor Violet over here too and bring it into his beard. These things are very slow and easy type paintings. We don't want to do anything too quickly with this. We want to make our decisions and feel like we've made good decisions. This is part of his flesh over here, so I need more flesh tone. And anywhere where I feel like I may decide I want to work on a little bit later, I'm going to leave myself a nice soft line there so I can come back anytime I want. I get some of this in his mouth. I also feel like painting is a lot like sculpting. The image should almost just start emerging. So, and if he doesn't, then I'm like, what am I doing wrong? I'm going to take a little bit of my yellow ochre and get it in through here, so he's got some different things happening with more of my green. I'm sure I told everybody I was busy tonight. I'll just turn that off, I'm sorry. So, and I can just let some of this just drip down. Let it all become part of what's going on here. So I really like to lay the paint down and then give it a shape. Again, notice that I'm doing my mixing right on my piece of paper. I haven't done hardly any mixing over here on my palette at all. And I do like to change up my brush stroke, so I have some that are the word's now escaping me. Dry brush. Dry brush. Excuse me. Sometimes it's not so easy to get in here and paint and talk all at the same time. But I want this to look like it's got a nice light thing happening on his beard. So, and one way of making that happen as well, I'm going to take some of my cerulean and bring it over here on the side, so I can start defining where his face begins and ends. A nice gray would be all right. This gray happens to be the cerulean with a little bit of cad red. I can even get a little purple in here, just a little. And again, I want some of these nice negative shapes over here to show that he's got pieces of this beard that are catching that light. those are the things that attract me to want to paint these things. If I don't care about what's happening with the light, I don't want to paint them. They're not any fun for me. And I think I'm going to throw some green in this too. And since it's still wet, I can do that. I'm going to do the same over here. It's nice to have places where your painting connects with its background. This is going to be a nice harder edge on this side. I have a feeling I probably am going to need to get a little bit of burnt sienna in this. Just to tone it down, just a hair. Just want to lighten up, just to soften that edge just a little bit right there. Do a little bit inside his ear. We don't, as far as I'm concerned, for me on this, I don't have to do a whole lot. Just, I need to make it look like it's his ear, and that's what I care about, period. If the value is off slightly, I can come back and give it another value.
Kim, is that just on this picture or typically with ears?
You know, with most, I probably, in the earlier days, had to give it all the detail. And, you know, the more you paint, the more you realize I didn't need to do that. Just wasn't necessary. And the more you look at somebody else's paintings, the more you really do realize it's just not necessary. I want to get some of this a little darker through here too. I could let this drip. There we go. That's a nice one. What happened? Because I know I'm going to come back here and I'm another wash and make some of this a little darker and some a little lighter. And like, this is all his beard. You know, to me, it almost seems like the most exciting part about him is his beard. It's almost like fur. You don't really have to think about, your brush stroke doesn't have to be beautiful. It just has to relay the information that it's a beard. get some of this dry brushing hopefully going right through here as well, just to change up some of this color a little bit. Well, one thing about this group, it has gotten a lot quieter. It used to be a lot more talkative.
We're small town.
I don't know what color eyes this guy has, so I'm just going to give him something. And you'll notice I did not leave the whites of his eyes white because they're not. They're in shadow. And that's part of what a photograph will do, is that it will lie to you every time. It will tell you that certain things are much lighter or a lot darker than they really truly are. And you have to know the difference. You have to know when. And so I put a little green in with that. And I do want to leave just a little bit of light, but not white, showing in his eyeball in order to give it a little bit of life. I really don't paint eyebrows or eyelashes. We just want to give it the shape. And I'm changing my color quite often here.
How do you decide which color to use?
The more you do it, the more you'll gravitate towards colors that you like. And that's about my only answer for you, because there's no right or wrong answer about the color. It's about the value.
Do you use the same colors for a dark-skinned person?
I do. What I will do is I will use more pigment on a dark-skinned person. That's funny you should ask that, because one of my practice pieces was on a guy he was black, and I thought, oh my God, this looks awful. I've lost it completely. But you know, like I said, it just takes practice, and you can't give up on it. You have to decide that if it's something you want to do, you have to practice this. It doesn't just come. It doesn't happen.
And Kim, you have a whole collection of brushes there, and you're doing the whole painting with one brush.
That's right. I usually never change my brush. I decide in the beginning which one it's going to be, and that's what I do. Absolutely. Because if I get changing a brush, I'll get thinking, oh, I should change a brush. And then something happens over here, and I'm like, shouldn't have changed my brush. His eyelashes, excuse me, are catching the light over on this side of his eye, and if I can keep it a little lighter there, that's going to be fabulous for me. I really like to keep red going on the nose. I don't know if any of you would recall Jan Kuntz. She was one of kind of the old timers. She's passed at this point, but and in her book she always put. I always change this around because she either put the green across the eyes, red across the nose, and blue across the mouth. But I feel like as long as you keep the red on the nose, you're going to do good. You can use the blue and the green interchangeably as far as I'm concerned. They both work. So then after you talk, you have to remember where you were. And you'll notice I'm going back over now some of the things that I first laid down. And that's because now that it's dry, I can. I don't know if it's because he has a chubby face, he then has this piece by his eye or exactly what, but he's getting it. Like I said, I'm calling him mugshot. And I'm going to change over to my cobalt blue. I would like to try to keep it somewhat in the same family of, so I can get some of these darks moving in here too. And this is dry enough. I'd like to get this little dark on this rim of his hat. I don't think it's quite dry enough on this side, so I'm gonna leave it alone. I think as an exercise, it's a fun thing to say to yourself, okay, I'm gonna leave some hard lines. We don't need to make all soft lines. Although that is our first thing that we seem to always want to do, is make some nice soft lines. Hair up this way. Probably not quite that dark. It's okay. Tell me when it starts getting close to being the time I should be done. And I'll try to hurry. Mostly what we should be looking at when we're doing these things are the values. The values are the most important parts. It doesn't make any difference what color it is, as long as your value is good. See, underneath this beard, I'm gonna have to put a little value. I have to, in order to show that this is beard. I don't have to make it go all the way across, but I have to make it just enough where it feels believable. I think it feels like this got out of shape just a little bit. You know what, I thought that when I drew it, or when I was looking at it before I started painting, and it is what my reference says, but sometimes you have to decide if it looks too funky, you have to change it. We have to remember that every shape has a light, medium, and dark, and that's what makes things look like they're round, or that they have volume to them. Give this a bit of a shade right in between, but I don't want to go absolutely all the way across. I want to make it kind of come and go, so it leaves some of the imagination to the viewer. And just a little more shadow here. Some of his eye went a little blurred there, so I'll just add a little more down here. Strengthen that line. And I just keep adding colors to it, right one on top of the other, so it does all of its mixing right here on my piece of paper. This needs to be darker. I think this feels like it got a little light, so I'm just gonna do some of this. Just right over the top. And underneath his cap needs to come a little darker. Needs to be a pretty wash. It needs a darker value, but I have to let that dry. So I'm going to come back here and do this one again. If it looks, when you lay it down and it looks like it's about the right value, it's too late. You have to put more because the watercolor has a tendency, I can't remember what they say, dries 20% lighter, but that 20% just doesn't mean anything to me.
Yeah, it depends what color.
Yeah, and I don't even know what that means. All I know is when I get it laid down, if it's not dark enough, that it's not the right value. I'm going to make this just a little darker underneath here so it truly makes the suggestion this is his beard. It's hitting the light there. Darker. The things that we should say to ourselves is that this needs to be darker, or this should be lighter here, or darker here, or needs another shape, or those types of things. But because of who we are, we immediately go to, oh my God, this is ugly. We can't help ourselves. But I'm here to tell you it's not ugly, not yet. Has a long way to go before it could be ugly. His eyes to me look like they're way too dark, but having said that, when we change one thing on our painting, we change everything. That's pretty dry. The brim of his hat needs that little dark space. That may not have been quite dry enough. And I'm going to bring it back this way. Hair. Oops, lost control of my brush. I don't really see eyebrows on this guy, but I feel like I probably should make the suggestion that he has some. And sometimes all it means is just laying down your brush in a shape. Just a little, doesn't have to be a lot. And I'm certainly not going to do that writing on his. If I just make the suggestion that there's something here, that's the only thing I have to do. if somebody would like to come up and read that, they're welcome to. This needs to dry just a little more. A little darker here. You know, and everybody has their own approach to these things. Whatever works for you is absolutely the best approach. I can only just show you my approach. It's not right, it's not wrong, it's just what works for me. And sometimes these things work, and sometimes they don't. I feel like some of this stuff in here just stayed a little bit too light, so I'm just going to give it a light wash, very light wash. He has a nice light spot here on his mustache that I like, and I want to keep that. And he needs... It's also much easier for me to be brave in front of an audience than it is at home. And I find that to be very strange. You would think it would be the opposite, and it's just not. It's much easier for me to leave much harder lines in front of you guys than it is for me to do it at home. At home, it's like, oh, this needs to be softer. Oh, okay, I need to make that softer. This should be more round. And sometimes your painting is just that much more interesting if you leave it alone. Alone. Oh, he looks okay. And it really looks good because I've got my reading glasses on and I can't see. So literally I'm seeing shapes, and that's all I'm seeing. But it does feel like I could get some more green moving around in here. The what? Say it again?
Makes the red pop.
Oh, good. I don't even need to go all the way around. What I really need is just abstract shapes that are saying he's in front of something. And he's connected, but he's disconnected, you know. He disconnects here, so there's some nice hard lines. He connects on this side, so therefore he's part of the painting. You know, it's not like he's been cut out and pasted on top of this, which is something that we all like to do as well. Get those scissors out, cut him out, put him right there right there. And if you feel like it, We can take our nifty little eradicator, because we can. And I just like to just soften some of this up, just right here a little bit. Some of this, I like what happened here. I'm not so sure, I might really need to go a little darker right through here, but I could go lighter first in just a couple little areas. It feels to me like he got a little bit too, like his beard is too rounded. It needs a little bit of an awkwardness here somewhere.
It seems to me his right eye is not quite,
I know, because he's got a light shining on it,
yeah.
and there's light coming on his eyelashes, but his actual, not dark enough. And let's do this. And maybe that will read just a little better. Because it's his eyelash that's got some light, and I thought, oh, that would be a fun thing to make happen. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes you just shouldn't have done it. And that's okay. We do these things, we learn. It's about learning for another time. These are not,
What paper did you use?
excuse me?
What kind of paper did you use?
This is the Saunders Waterford, which I haven't used for a very long time. So I feel like some of it is still very experimental for me.
And is that a cold press or a hot press?
This one's rough. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that the Saunders was built to take a whole bunch of glazes. That's what I have found so far. And because of the way that most of us have learned here, that's kind of the thing we want to do, is lay down a whole bunch of glazes. And
So what's your favorite paper for glazes?
probably I'm still at the arches stage, but I've come to realize that arches is not the end all be all.
No.
Most of the big artists don't even use it. I think it's kind of, in their minds, it's not really, I don't want to say it's not good paper, because I'm sure it's fabulous paper.
They
But-
don't do the sizing the way they used to.
No, they don't. And I've even seen a lot of people online that are saying that it's gotten worse. Ever since, who bought it? Canson? Who bought it?
Cranston?
Canson? Canson? Who bought it?
I thought they took it back.
Oh, I don't know. I just saw it the other
They went through
day.
a stage where it was really bad,
Yeah,
and everybody was complaining. We got sizing differences on sheets and
Sure.
marks from the cutters and all
Yep.
kinds of things, and then it seemed to go back to a more stable.
Fabriano did that. I had 2 packs of 10 of the 300-pound hot press paper. And I had some paintings already drawn up, and I was painting on it, and half the sizing was gone. And I got a hold of them in Europe, because I didn't know where to get a hold of them here. And they replaced all 20 sheets. No questions asked. Yeah, I thought that was pretty darn nice. Well, you guys, that was just about an hour. Can you see anything that needs some work? Touch up?
Just sign it.
Shine it? We done? I've already named him as Mugshot. because
You
I
named
felt,
him what?
I named him Mugshot because I thought he looked like he just got out of prison or something, I don't know.
He looks friendlier the way you made him.
I think so too.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Kim.
You betcha.